All right, so we are finally bringing in 2025. The January show commences on Friday night live from the Masonic Temple. Fight week preview for the 50th ever Fierce Fighting Championship event. Blake O'Rulian alongside Zack Partridge. Zack, this is pretty monumental for the show. I mean, who would have thought, back in 2016 years ago, before you and I were even involved in this thing, that it would amount to 50 shows?
Yeah, I just think a lot of credit needs to be given to Cody Thunderson for starting the show and anybody that's in the promotion business pushing through and done some harder times and not so fun times, doing a lot of work by yourself times. He did a lot for a long time, doing a lot of the heavy lifting. So I'm grateful that we were brought in when we were so that we could kind of lift that burden, help elevate the show and keep it going. And I think 50 is really cool. I think this is like we're into our 30s now, somewhere in there around since I've been to the show. So that's cool. So I just look forward to 50 and then another 50 when we hit 100.
Cannot wait for it. We got plenty more to do. But on Friday night, we have an incredible card. Jackie Thomas versus Nicole Funga will kick things off. Jackie Thomas coming out of Nampa, Idaho. As for Nicole Funga, we haven't seen her in 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a wild matchup, Jackie Thomas, who's 1-1, just got to win. Crazy circumstances. Her last fight was against somebody we know, Grayson Johnson. Jackie going back up to 55 to fighting Nicole. It's going to be a good fight. I gave Nicole a lot of credit. She only has a 1-3 record, but she has fought some extremely tough competition. 1-1 versus 1-3, but Nicole was always extremely tough, exciting. Why she was away, had another kid, busy being a mom, doing those things. So I just think Nicole is I love having her around the show. I love when she's even coming to do the national anthem and stuff. She brings a really fun energy. Jackie's done a fantastic job promoting herself. I think this is a really fun fight to start off the car and start off kind of one of my focuses of 2025 of having more women's MMA on the Fierce cards.
Yeah, and that February show, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but there's a lot of really, really good female matchups on that one. Let's
Correct.
move over to a wrestler versus another wrestler at 170 pounds. Dave Sorenson is back to face opposite Spencer Hansen. Zack, we've talked a lot about this one behind the scenes. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I mean, David Sorensen versus Spencer Hansen. I think it was really fun. David, interestingly enough, was a uh, he had a opponent switch on him for his debut fight. Um, and it turned out to be one of the best fights on that card. What was it back in May?
I believe August.
The August Maverick Center card. Really fun fight. David showed how super tough he was. Just a grind out fight that I thought he put on a great show for his debut. Spencer Hansen, who made his debut at Steel Fist, had a tough outing, came back, fought a really skilled guy in the Challenger Series last March. His wrestling kind of took over. We're gonna see. So now we're gonna see. Stylistically, it was both fights. David fought a striker, didn't get it done in a super close fight. Spencer fought a striker. His wrestling did get it done in his fight. Now two wrestlers get to fight each other, and I think we're gonna have a pretty fun grappling match.
Yeah, Spencer Hansen, he controlled 71% of that fight versus Arjan Jerome. As for Dave Sorensen, 4 for 6 on takedowns when he made his debut. All right, Asia Negron versus Virginia Rodriguez. Virginia Rodriguez, she has a birthday coming up. She'll be 40 in just a couple of days following the show. As for Asia Negron, coming off of that title loss in June.
Yeah, I mean, I think this fight again made a ton of sense. One thing that was really nice is Virginia and Jackie coming from the same camp together, traveling down together. That worked out really well. And then Asia, when she fought Melody, one of the things that she took that on it was a shorter camp a little bit as we were trying to find somebody for Melody to defend her title again. So Asia, yeah, I think like a 4-week camp, which isn't super long for a title fight. Asia really stepped up. She's been great to deal with. She always brings a really fun crowd up from Empire. I think this is another really fun fight. A little more striker heavy this time, where Asia can use some of her striking. I think, and Virginia, like you said, I think I think it's really fun when these girls want to go out there and just compete. I think it's going to be, one thing that's interesting with Virginia. This is her fourth fight, four different shows. She's never fought for the same promotion twice, and so as she's just gaining experience doing this, challenging herself, traveling to different states, Oregon, Idaho, now Utah, different weight classes. Just her journey, I think, is really cool and one of the really fun things that MMA can offer these athletes.
Speaking of really cool journeys, how about this one? Nico Braswell versus Zarek Moshed. I believe I have the pronunciation correct on that.
I
8
believe
days
you.
notice for him going up against the Agima wrestler who we saw 11 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, Zack, he has been a guy that has been messaging Fierce diligently to get an opportunity. And, people ask me when they ask me to fight and they're independent and they don't belong to a traditional gym that we work with regularly here locally. Um, I think we have so many people that are trying to fight on our shows. It's hard to stay on our radar. But Zarek, this is the second time where he potentially had an opportunity to take a shorter notice opportunity. He's somebody, he says he's always training. He's been training for a long time in traditional martial arts. He's always wanted to challenge himself in the cage. And, Nico isn't exactly the easiest person to find somebody to raise their hand to say yes to potentially dealing with a grappler to his extent. I let Zarek know, he's a grappler, like he is a wrestler, and Zarek was like, that sounds great, and he didn't hesitate, just like he almost had an opportunity for a short notice fight last year, and he didn't hesitate, and it didn't work out for him, but I have a lot of respect for the young fighters that put their money where their mouth is when they say what they want to fight and they want to go through this experience. You don't know. We don't know. When you're matching a debuter, you just don't know. And sometimes they come out and they surprise us, a la Talon Carvalho, right? He took a short notice fight, not much more notice than this, and he shocked everybody by just being a good athlete. So Zarek is interesting. We know what Nico's about. We know what he's going to bring to the Fierce Cage, and we know he's going to bring a big crowd, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm always excited for Nico Braswell to fight. I feel like so many people are backing him. As for Zarek, he's been training since he was 10 years old, in his early to mid 20s at this point. So,
Yeah.
all being said, lots of experience on both sides of the cage in that 140-pound catchweight bout. All right. Nate Reinhardt, Zack Spritzer headline the prelims in this one. Nate Reinhardt, he's won 3 of his last 4. As for Zack Spritzer, he's had one fight in 9 years, but it was a dominant one just a couple of months ago in Idaho.
Yeah, Zack, he's not wasting any time. He wanted to get active. He wanted to get going. And I think, he wants to put himself in that title picture. And what a better way to step up and take the challenge of fighting the guy who, just recently his last fight was a loss in our amateur title fight. I consider this a number one contender fight. I think the winner will put themselves in a position to be fighting for our Fierce Bantamweight title, considering the current one is moving down to flyweight. So I think that is something that we'll be looking at very soon. Zack came down. He impressed me in that fight. He showed a lot of really good things. Usually, ring rust. I've always said that. I think that's more of a mentality thing. And he kicked that ring rust off fast. He fought after a 9-year layoff. He came to Idaho Falls and fought Michael Izalde and dominated. And he with a win Friday night, he could move himself to 4-4, but a 2-fight win streak, in the last few months, and put himself right there. As of Nate is a really good fighter. He has been, if anything, consistent. He's the most chill guy in Utah MMA, as we know. Really, really like Nate a lot. I just think it was one of those things in September. It's so interesting, right? Because he was supposed to fight Nasir Davis in Price, and their team really felt like Nate would have matched up really well with Nasir because of his size, and he's a big bantamweight, and he's a big kid. And when he fought David, I think he had a rough weight cut. Just I say this all the time as somebody who's fought and has experienced it. One of the most impressive things is those fighters that are always on game day because everybody has an off night. And the problem is when you have an off night in MMA, 8 weeks of hard work, one off night, and it just doesn't go your way. Nate is, as good as David Kim is, and not taking away anything from him, Nate is a very tough game competitor. And I expect to see Nate back in true Nate Reinhardt form. And I think this is a really good fight. And with a good performance and a good fight, I think either one of these guys absolutely put themselves deserving in that bantamweight title spot.
All right, let's go ahead and move over to the main card. Again, tickets on sale as well as the pay-per-view at fiercefightingchampionship.com. Kamuela Mamone returns, hoping to get a full-fledged fight in opposite Morgan College. That one is very fun to start things off on the main card, Zach.
Morgan, so first off, most people, Camuela's been one of the toughest people to match that I've had to in the last year or so of trying to find him fights because he's so dangerous and he's so good that when people fight him, they want a title on the line. The problem was he early on in his AMI career, he had a problem making 155. The commission would no longer allow him to go to 155. He then goes up to 170, Lane Dalton fight, unfortunate cage malfunction, right? But anyways, so but now he's down to a more appropriate walking weight to make 155. Morgan College is asking for a fight and he wants a title fight. Well, I've been pretty consistent. I've only made one exception, and Asian Negron is that rule, is you have to have at least a 500 record and on a winning streak to fight for a title. Well, so Morgan said, I will fight anybody at 145 or 155 that'll get me a title fight. And I said, if you fight Camuela Mamone and you win, that would put him at a 500 record on a 3-fight winning streak, and you can pick your weight class that you get a title shot at. And so Morgan didn't even blink. Say, absolutely, let's do it. And Morgan has shown when he came back to us, Fierce Challenger Series 7 against Cross Hughes, he was dangerous for Cross. He was doing a lot of really good things, and he showed his evolution. And then he comes out and he gets a submission against Zach Hamilton, big win. He goes down on super short notice and beat Lars Wittenberg on Tough Enough down in Las Vegas, like on a day's notice.
Yeah.
And gets the first round submission in like 50 seconds. Insane. I mean, with a win over Camuela Mamone, you can't deny this guy a title fight. That's a good, those are some big things to fill. Camuela Mamone, when I say the reason why he's so hard to match, it's because he kind of he's a wrecking ball. The only two people that have beat him are Cole Faust and Ammon Garcia, who pretty good, pretty good guys. So, I think this is a fun fight. This was originally, before some dropouts, unfortunately, this was the headliner of our preliminary card. But with those dropouts, this fight is for me, I think it's for however long it lasts, because they're both finishers. However long it lasts, it will be an absolute banger to kick off this main card on Friday night.
That's a sensational fight. You got me with goosebumps over here. I'm super stoked. And following suit is going to be none other than one of two titles on this card. 125 pounds between David Kim and Lance Reginball. Lance Reginball defeated David Kim's teammate in Brendan Myers back in September in order to take that crown. As for David Kim, he's dropping down for his third title fight in 4 months.
I mean, both these guys, I say this all the time. You want to become relevant in MMA, you get active. Matters more than anything. Activity matters more than anything. And both of these guys got crowned titles on September 7th. Lance goes up and competes in his home state of Montana since then. wins an interim title up in Fusion. I believe it's an interim title, while they're sorting that out, whatever that means. I think interim titles for amateurs is crazy, but whatever. In my eyes, he's a champion. He's a champ. And David Kim successfully defended his title in a grappler's delight in December against Reese. I'm not going to butcher his last name. But these two are getting active. David Kim's activity, he's really making waves. And one thing I've been really impressed with David is he is taking Lance very seriously, because as impressive as David is, Lance comes from a camp and he carries a swagger with him that you're going to have to beat that kid. He won't quit. I mean, Brendan Myers he kind of dominated that first round, and it didn't even phase Lance. And when you watch Lance fight, that you have to respect is, one, he's never going to quit on himself. That guy's always dangerous. So as long as the fight's going, he's in it. And two, when that kid throws, he is throwing with bad intentions. He can turn the fight one punch, and the whole fight will turn around. And David's very aware and has a lot of respect for that. Another grappler versus striker. I think these are the probably, I think David has told me Lance is unquestionably a top 10 amateur flyweight in the country. He's taking this seriously. We all know how talented David is. I think this is an incredible fight that between two young athletes that both have bright futures in pros. And this is going to be a high level, high stakes fight.
Both guys are on insane hot streaks. Lance Reginball, he's won 5 in a row. As for David Kim, he has the opportunity to become the second ever double champion at Fierce Fighting Championship. We'll continue it on, though. 145 pounds with Ricky Mamone and Andre Martin as they contest for the featherweight strap. Ricky Mamone, currently the champion, 9 seconds of cage time in 2024 as he welcomes in the Las Vegas Fighter.
We all know Ricky. We've seen Ricky. I think he's the most violent amateur fighter currently. When he hits people, the expression on their faces just change, right? He's a stud. He reminds me of a miniature Justin Gaethje. I've said it over and over. When he throws, he throws to hurt. Andre Martin is a scrapper, and he's a dog, and he's intelligent. We first saw Andre Martin. He is the Crown FC featherweight champ. And I first knew about Andre Martin when I fought on the same card with him down in St. George. And he beat a kid from MMA Lab, Cade Cox, who was originally supposed to fight Ricky at one point. And Andre handed Cade Cox his first loss, and Cade was supposedly a guy that nobody wanted to fight. And Andre fought an extremely high IQ fight and got a 5-round decision win in that fight. And one thing is, I will say this, Andre, these two young men could not be nicer and better to deal with. They're awesome. They're awesome young men and great competitors. I think this is a fight that'll come down if, Andre's fight IQ versus just Ricky's just sheer power and athleticism, and to see which one's going to win, and if Ricky can successfully defend this title, what the future holds for him. I think he is one of, if not the amateur, I'd say Ricky, David, Lance are 3 of our fierce champions that all have insanely high ceilings once they all go pro, and they all have, if they don't, they should have UFC aspirations. I think they're all that good. I think Ricky's special, and I think Andre, though, is the type of guy that you have to be able to deal with somebody like Ricky. So I'm very excited for this featherweight title fight.
Chris Chu, Goram Gokashvili, one of 2 professional bouts on this card, the co-main event. Chris Chu, been such a busy guy over the past year since he became a pro, will face one of Connecticut's finest and up-and-coming stars.
So Chris Chu, he asked for Trent Miller, unfortunately already booked, but pretty dang good prospect, right? Eric McConico, who just beat Jerome Hatch at Tough Enough over the summer and is headlining Tough Enough's card here in a few weeks again. One of the top middleweight prospects in the country. Or Billy Elicana, who, if that name sounds familiar from you, it's because he just made a short notice UFC debut, walking at 200 pounds, normally a middleweight, fighting up at 205, and won the first round of his fight.
He fought great.
He fought great, right? And that was Chris Chu's wish list. He just wanted to fight somebody that I think would. I don't know what it, but he's not wasting any time. And when I sent him Goram's 2-0, I think officially 1-0, but I think he is 2-0. 2-0, correct?
2-0.
Goram, main training partner of Alex Bejeda. Glover Teixeira is very high on him, thinks that he could be another Alex where he could storm into the UFC and rise up into, middleweight contention. This fight will happen at 195, super middleweight. And we just dropped it. You just dropped it. Chris Chu's been fighting an average of 55 days. He went April, pro debut, short notice. He went April, August, September, November, January. His activity is insane. And this is a guy who was never known as a ticket seller. He's building a little fan base and kind of like a cult following here in Salt Lake City, as he should. I love Chris, and I think what he is doing is nothing short of spectacular. And I hope it's a guy that the Utah MMA community really gets behind. And he has a tall order Friday night because Goram is no joke.
Is there going to be the presence of any former light heavyweight champions?
Unfortunately, Glover and Alex are down doing media stuff in Brazil this weekend for the UFC. When this fight was made, I was told there was a high likelihood that Glover for sure and potentially Alex would be here, but unfortunately they had UFC obligations they had to be to this weekend.
Okay, I just wanted to check.
Another Georgian. Hey, another Georgian, though, who's got to be riding high after Merab's big win Saturday night at UFC 311. That was spectacular.
Going to be special in the co-main event. Main event time, Julian Ruez returns opposite Abijah Mahula. Now,
Kaleo.
There's Kaleo, but I do believe he wants to go by Abijah coming in.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
sorry, Abijah.
So Abijah Mahula opposite Julian Ruez. Both guys have been on hot streaks. Julian coming off of that PFL debut, unfortunately a loss, but still the hot streak that he was on in the lead up to it. As for Abijah, he's won 3 in a row and seems to be really turning the tide of his MMA career.
So if anybody that are diehard MMA fans, MMA Junkie just dropped an article a couple weeks ago with Goram and Abijah on there as top 20 unsigned prospects to watch for in 2025 to start making some moves. Abijah starts his pro career 1-3 on a 3-fight win streak. He's cruising, good striker. This is going to be, honestly, I feel like this main event hasn't been talked about enough. This is going to be as exciting as a main event as we've had. Stylistically, these guys are perfect dance partners for each other to come out and do what they want to do and see who the better striker is. You could say whatever you want about Julian in his performance in the PFL. If anything, I thought that he showed he belonged there. I thought he won the first round. I thought his volume and his cardio and his pace that he showed was insane. And since he's lost, if you look, you can see that he's been putting in an insane amount of work. His body's changed a little bit. I think Julian, the competitiveness in him, I think there is a ton to gain for the winner of this fight. I think Julian with a win over, sorry, I keep wanting to say Kaleo, Abijah can capture all that heat that he has, rise to 5-1, and he'd be a win or two away from being almost a shoo-in, it would seem, for to go back to the PFL or the Dana White Contender Series this fall with his style and his abilities. And Abijah, that it's a this is a high stakes main event fight, and make no mistake about it. I think somebody's going to get. I think this is going to be a banger, and I think the fans of Salt Lake City and all the MMA community is in for a treat because I think this win springboards the winner to big heights and on a lot of radars for a lot of big shows.
Live from the Masonic Temple Friday night. Zach, cannot wait for it.
Tickets are on sale. We always get a really big push on Fight Week. We have some really great new partners. If one of them is R&R Barbecue, I would definitely go download their app and get on their rewards package. There might be a discount for Fierce tickets on there if you go check them out. And then always just support the local fighters. These guys are going to come put on an incredible show. Man, I cannot wait for this card. I think, in 10 fights it's such a perfect night out. There's going to be a lot of finishes, I promise. I think there's 4 or 5 knockouts guaranteed coming. We got some bangers. I cannot wait for this show. I cannot wait to celebrate Fierce's 50th show. Excited to see everybody kick off 2025 with a bang.
Going to be special. Zach Partridge, thank you so much.